When you go to the Moodle page, you can download this from the exercises area. The first one is probably going to be the simplest. You really don't have anything to do to this design except print it out and cut it out. I've got the cutting mats and the X-Acto knives, sharp knives over here. Once you print it off or once you're ready to print, we'll print all of these at the same time. But pay attention to what this package design has. The outer edges of it, well, first of all, at the top, this is what it looks like once it's all folded together. It's not just your simple sided box. This one actually has a little clasp to it. It has a little bit more of a unique design. Packages don't have to look like boring cubes. You can add some really good flair to it. If you can find a package that's already exists and want to recreate that, totally fine. But the thing to pay attention to is the dimensions of each of the sides for these. Since this is more of a trapezoidal kind of design, the edges aren't nice and straight. They're getting a little bit closer than they are at the bottom. So it adds a unique little element to it. When you look at the package design, everywhere that has a solid line is where you would cut out, and everywhere that has a dotted line is where you would fold along here. So this will indicate where you want an open part of the flap, where things would cut into and cut out of different areas. One thing I try to do, just to make it less confusing, if I was looking at this, I know this needs to fold, but do I need to cut right there, or is that a fold line? That would be something I would have to ask the designer to clarify when working through this. You can do that by either making the dots or dashes smaller or not having it touch right there at the edge. But once you're finished with this, you're going to cut it out, fold it, and assemble it all together. That's the easiest one. Here's the next one I want you to practice through. I've taken my Orbit's gum package and I've scanned it in. You can do this for any kind of package that you have. As long as it's laid out flat, you can even photograph it. The main thing is you want to be able to clearly see the edges of it, and you want to see the fold lines, and if there's any cut or open lines, for instance down here, you can see where it's cut for a little tab inside of there. The main thing I'm concerned about for this one is just the edges and the folding lines. I don't really care about the design on the inside or where things are placed. What I want you to do is work on another layer and recreate this as a template folder. And I'm going to do that for you right now to give you some things to think about. Of course, this is a three-dimensional object, so I need to make sure the sizes of each of the sides matches up as far as the width and the height of it. If I open up my layer palette, I'm working in layer 2. Layer 1 is locked down, is where my template is, so I don't accidentally move it around. With this, I've got a lot of rectangles, so I can definitely use my rectangle tool to work with. What I like to do is to turn off my fill color and give me a color that I can see. In this case, I've got red and black, so maybe I would change this to green or blue, something that just would stand out and I can tell the difference between the two. Let's do a lighter greenish blue. What I like to do is to start off with the largest area first and then work down to the smaller areas and then finally do the tabs last. So if this was the back side of my design, I could click and drag and determine the size of it. And we'll make the size of the lines a little bit thicker so you can see it. It's not going to show up. Can we see white? Yeah. You can see why. So now I've got it labeled off. What I don't want to do is to start drawing other squares and try to make those squares line up. The reason why is I need it to be perfectly matched between one edge and another edge. If I was to eyeball this, it would always be off by just a little bit. See that right there? That's something that I want to have to avoid when creating these. I want the widths of these to be nice and perfect. So the first thing I may do is I may work with an existing edge, in this case this one, and draw around it. So I'll make a copy of this, Command C, and paste. Excuse me, I'm going to paste it right in front. Copy it. You can go up to Edit, and if I paste it right in front, it'll paste a copy of it right on top of the other one. When I do that, now it's simply a matter of moving one edge to the top. And I can do that with my wide arrow tool. If I click and drag, I'm holding down my Shift key. Can move that up to right there. Check out what I've got. Now I've got an edge that matches perfectly on each of the sides. I'm using an existing measurement to work with it. The second problem I have is I need to make sure these are nice and consistent. Think about this as a three-dimensional object. If this is my base and this is folded up, this becomes one of my sides, right? So this is going up along a parallel side. If this is one side, and I scroll down here, here's another side. Both of those sides need to be exactly the same. Am I right? So I need to make sure I copy this size exactly the same as the other size. Here's how you can do it. There's a couple of ways. First of all, I could select the object, and I can go up to my very top. Here's my width and my height. It's not a common number, but I could write that down. I could make a copy of it to make sure it's perfect. I could copy this and try to place it exactly where it's at. Again, I'm going to run into the same issue. I need to make sure it's right on top of it. How do I know if it's on top of it or not? Here's where outline mode comes in handy. I don't use this very often, but if you go up to View, you can choose Outline, and this will convert your entire layout to just the outlines of it. In other words, I'm not seeing any of the strokes or the fill colors or the gradients. I'm just seeing the outer edges of everything. If I was to zoom in down here now, actually I'll zoom in so you can see it. Do you see how it's slightly not overlapping? I can see exactly how much I need to move my bottom bit. Then once it's there, I can move it until it's perfectly right on top. This way I know I've got the size that I need. Let's zoom back out. We'll go back up to View into Preview mode. So now I can actually see my lines. Same way for this particular edge. If this is one edge, and this is another edge, this part right here, you can see where the fold line is. Needs to be the same height and width. Let's make a copy of this one. Copy it out. I do need to rotate it. And I need to paste it or place it right there on top. If I was eyeballing this, I can tell that it's going to be off by a little bit simply because how I've created it. But let's go into Preview mode. View, Outline. As far as recreating this goes, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Now I know it's perfectly right on top of that one. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but it does have to be able to be built out. I need to bring up my line right here. I'll use my white arrow, select this line, drag it in. Need to know if that one lines up, so let's go into Preview mode. Is it perfect?
No.
Nope, off by a little bit. So if you're OCD, today's your day.
Yay.
Now it's nice and perfect. As far as straight edges go, these are relatively easy. You're working in outline mode and preview mode to make sure everything fits up nice and neat. Once you get into these other areas, things like this where you've got a curved edge to it, this is where it starts to get a little bit more tricky. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen tool and draw off the different edges. I'll start from here. I'm holding down Shift to give myself a straight edge. And you'll see in just a second how I'm going to clean this up. Remember, I'm holding down Shift to give myself a perfectly straight line each time. And I can actually know that there's a little bit of a cut right there. For now, we'll keep it right here. I'll just make this a little bit smaller so I can see it. Let's open up my stroke panel. I can select this one and drag it down until it matches here. I can select this one until it matches right about there. Here's a new feature in Illustrator. Let's see if I got it. I don't have it turned off right now. On yours it may be turned on. Whenever you make a corner edge, there's a way of rounding off that particular corner. It's called live corners. If you go up, I believe it's to view, and give me a second to find it. There we are, show corner widget. I'm going to turn mine on. Now when I select it, is it going to work?
You have to use direct select.
I do. You are right. Thank you so much. If you got direct select, got your white arrow, and you select an object, you get this little dot in the corner of it. This allows you to select, I'm going to select just this individual corner. When I click and drag, it'll automatically curve that corner. And all I'm doing is curving it to match that particular curve. And now it creates that. Same way for this one. Uh-oh, too far. If I select just this point, click on the little curve, drag it out till it matches. And so this is a great and easy way of matching curves from one edge to another one. Pay attention, however, if I've got, I'll draw off another box, just off to here. If I've got all the corners selected at once, and then I try to click on one of them, all of them are going to move at the same time. The only way to affect one corner is to use your white arrow and select just that one corner. Now only that corner will be the one that's being affected. Pretty cool? And if I need to redo it again, as long as I haven't messed it up too much, I can resize and rework that one. That's one of the few upgrades to Illustrator that I actually really appreciate. Yes, it makes it very, very much a lot easier. Let's see, I'm going to go back to here. Let's maybe clean up this one. If I've got no stroke, I can see that I've got a little tab that needs to be cut in right there. Rather than using my corner, I'm going to use my pen tool. I'm going to click right here and add a point. Since I've added a point to this line, I can now use my direct selection tool and move it in and actually clean that up as well. Same way for up here. I believe this one, no, that one's actually good. We just need to line it up nicely. Add a line back to it, make it 3-point. Make this one 3.2. I'll go into preview mode or outline mode, and then I can add up or line up this particular edge. Select all those points, nudge it up. Let's do the same for down here. Ooh, that one's way off. Oh man, I can't sleep. Right there on the edge, and then we'll drag this down just a bit to be right there. Perfect. Back into preview mode. Eventually, you'll have built out the entire edge of your box, all the outlines of everything that you have. But we're not done yet. I need to indicate the difference between a cut line and a fold line. I'm going to turn all of these to black so that we can see what we're working with. And I'm going to turn off my shape layer. From here, I know that this needs to be a cut edge, but I know this right here needs to be a folding edge. In other words, it's going to be connected to there. I need to be able to fold it out. So to turn this into a dotted line, you can do that very easily in Illustrator. I'm going to use, again, my direct selection tool. If I was to select just this line set, how many lines are right here? Two. Why is there two?
Because they're two rectangles.
Two rectangles. So if I was to click once, select it, I'm going to hit the delete key. It looks like nothing's happened, but I deleted one of the lines from here. Now I'm left with one line. Let's do the same thing. Select it. This time I'm going to cut it. Edit and cut. Looks like it's gone. If I paste it right in front or right in place, I've got it back. But now it's a line all by itself. Did I lose everybody there? Essentially all I've done is made that line by itself. In the stroke panel, this is where you can choose to have a dashed line. With it selected, turn on dash, and these are the dashes that you get. There really is no set way of doing dashes. By default, there's 12 point, but you can determine the amount or the length of a dash and the length of a gap within your line. So if I want to have really long dashes, I can increase that number and it would look like this. If I wanted to have more or less of a gap in between it, I could have a gap that looks like that. And you can actually customize the dot and dash gap. One thing I like to do, since it's not a cut line, is to make the weight of it a little bit smaller. So instead of 3, maybe we'll have that at 1 point. Now I actually know the difference between a cut line and a folding line that I'm working with. And I would do the same thing for each of the other lines that I have. If I was building this out, I know this one needs to be a dash line. There's 2 of them here, so I'm going to select this one, delete it. Select this one, cut it, Command X. And I need to paste it in front, Command F to paste. And then apply my dash design to it as well. This would be a dash line or a fold line. This would be a fold line. Everything that's on the outside edges would be a cut line inside of it. What I'm looking for this second template is for you to redraw and recreate everything that's on this particular box. Once you're finished, it should be able to fold together and look perfect. It'll be larger than the actual Orbits box that you're used to seeing. But I could take this one. Say I made a copy of it, drag it up. Ooh, this one's really fancy because it's got a curve here and then it's got another slight curve right there. So I will need to have my tools. Can't just use the edge curve to curve that. I've got to actually draw that one off. That's okay. We'll use my pen tool. I'll add a point to here. And looks like it's stopping right about there. If I was to delete away this point right here, selected it. Now it's simply a matter of using my pen tool to redraw and reconnect to here. Click, hold down Command. Look here, hold down Command. Excuse me, Option. And redo the curve. I would repeat the same part on this side. There is a fold line right here, so I would need to indicate that particular fold line. I could use my selection tool and just copy a fold line over. There's a fold line. And then simply bring it in. This would need to be a fold line. I'm not cutting that edge off. But y'all won't have to watch me redo the whole thing. Any questions on that one? All good? For the final page, once you're finished with the second page, you're going to also print that one off, turn off the bottom layer, or at least get rid of the picture. Since it's locked down, you can select it, delete it away. Print that one off. You're going to cut that one and refold it as well. For the final one, this is where I'm going to give you an actual object. I'm going around and collecting little small objects about this size. Pick an object and create a box that's unique for this object itself. It has a height, a width, and a base dimension to it. So what you need to do first is to measure and see what size that box needs to be. It can be a simple rectangular box. That would be the easiest thing to do. Or if it's got a unique shape that you want to bring into it, you can also do that as well. Cool? Yes, make a box that's multi-sided. If you tear up my puzzle, you're going to have to put it back together. So, okay. The only thing I'm looking for this particular one is I want to have some sort of window or some sort of open area on your package to where I can see inside of your box. Make sense? In addition, it needs to have a lid, some sort of closable lid, and also some sort of flaps to hold everything together. If I was creating this, here's how I would start off by using it. So let's say I took something like the camera. If I've got my camera, measure the base height and width of it. So I'm going to quickly measure it. We'll say this is roughly 4 by 3 inches. 4 by 3 would be the base of what I need. If I'm working in Illustrator, think three-dimensionally. choose your rectangle tool. When you click once, let's get it, click once, I can type in the specific size that I need, 4 inches by 3 inches. When I say OK, so this will be the base that I have. Next, I need to have each of the sides to it. As far as the thinner side goes, it goes high, we'll say 3.5 inches tall. It's 3.5 inches tall, so what would be an edge that connects to this side, dimensions be?
3 by 3.5.
3 by 3.5. In this case, I can click, I can type in 3.5 by 3, same thing. And this is what I get. Now I need to line that up between those two. This is where preview mode or outline mode comes in. Take them, click them, right there. So here's one side to that one. You need to make a copy for the other side. I go into outline mode. You can tell that I'm off by fraction. Right there. What would be the edge that connects here? If it's 3.5 inches tall,
4.
yeah, 4 by 3.5. Uh-oh, I need to rotate it. Doop. Outline mode. Zoom in. You can tell that I'm off by just a little bit. Come on. Now that I've got a good start for how this looks, I know this is my base. One of these needs to be the front of it, and then one of these also needs to have a top to it. The top is going to be exactly the same. So we'll say that that connects right there. If this was my front, I need to have some sort of window to where I can see the product inside of it. It could be simply a matter of making a hole, a round hole, rounded rectangle. Let's do a rounded rectangle hole right in the center that I would cut out to be able to see my product. Now if I'm folding this, keep in mind this is my base. If I was to bring it closer to my base, I'm actually bringing this down on my box. Does that make sense? So if I wanted this to be towards the top, I need to bring it actually up here, because remember it's going to be folding in this way. If it helps, you may need to label everything that you have. So this would be the bottom, this would be front, this would be the top. Back, and these are the two sides. Side and side. So here's my basic layout for my box. It won't stay together, however. I've got no flaps on it in order to close it up, and I've got no means of gluing it together. Here's how I would create the flaps for each different area. Think about this edge and this edge are going to be glued together. Same way for this edge and this edge. So I need to have some sort of flap, at least on one of them, that I can glue to this one. If I was to select my object, I'll copy it, paste it right in front. Since these aren't going to be seen, I really don't care if they're off by just a little bit. But I made a copy of it and I flipped it over to here. Did y'all see how I did that? Then it's simply a matter of rounding over the edges. I can select this edge, can round it over, same way for this edge, and round it over. And when I cut it out, those edges won't be seen. Let's do the same thing for the other one. Got one side created. I could copy that. Got a flap, flip it over, and then reconnect it to that side. If I want to do the same for this side, copy and paste it. Select the corner that you want to round, and then just round it over. Make a copy of it and flip it.
Should you round the corners? Is that necessary?
The reason why you want to is so that when it comes together, it doesn't accidentally like. Let's see if I can show you. If I've got two edges that are being glued together, good question, and I have a flap that's right at 90 degrees. It needs to ride right along the edge of that flap. Does that make sense? It will look. I can fold it and show you. So if this was my glue flap and it folded up, it has to be absolutely perfect in
So
order
if
to
it
not be
wasn't-
seen. So if it wasn't perfect, if it was off by a little bit, you would have a little bit of an extra edge sticking up. I'm exaggerating it here. It would actually stick up over the edge. By rounding the corner, you kind of get rid of that little extra bit that you have. That's why it's common practice to do that. Or instead of rounding it, you could just bevel off the edge, make it straight. Yeah. Let's say I wanted, if this was the front of it and this was the top of it, if the top needs a flap of some sort, I could copy it, copy and paste in front, and then I'm going to bring in both of those edges. To do that, I've got my pen tool. I'm going to click here. I've added 2 points. I can click here and erase this one, and it automatically cuts through it. If I drag my guidelines, I can do the same from the other side. Again, select there, and erase this one. Erase that one. Now I've got a little extra flap that's on there. For this particular design, if your box is larger than your paper size allows, that's okay. I will let you shrink it down in order to fit on this page. For instance, you can see mine is obviously going to go over the 11 by 17 area. Once I've got everything done, this is where I could shrink it down to fit my particular area that I'm doing. The main thing I want you to practice is getting the dimensions of a product and trying to figure out how to construct a simple box. It doesn't have to be anything fine or fancy that goes around that particular product. And then drawing off the template from there. Cool? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to y'all. Once you finish up with these,